What's going on, everybody? It's the Bulls Show, aka Aidan, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be talking about whether or not the Chicago Bulls truly made significant progress and improvement in terms of this Chicago Bulls bench. Now, before we get into what other teams will be doing, that will be in a separate video. Today's solely going to be with the Chicago Bulls because free agency still has a ways to go. And ultimately, teams still have to do their business before we can say we did better than them or we did worse than them in terms of free agency. But in terms of what we've done, because we can't really make another signing, the only real move we can do next is to actually make a trade. With this team right now, has our bench improved enough? But before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show. Turn notifications on and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls and whether or not the bench will be better next season compared to last season. Look, it's a toss-up, ladies and gentlemen. I think we truly are undetermined at this point on just how good our bench will be. We're going to be relying on players that, in my opinion, will be either big parts of this bench or might not really get that much game time in relation to this bench. But we've got a lot of things to look forward to. Some of them will give us all our answers towards the end of the start of the regular season, I should say. So there's a lot to look forward to there. But we have to look at the outgoings. We have to look at the incomings of the Chicago Bulls team. So, in terms of outgoings, the first one we have to talk about is Troy Brown Jr. Went to the Los Angeles Lakers on a minimum deal. Troy Brown Jr. was a really hard-working player, can knock down that corner three, and sometimes he would give you some incredible games in terms of rebounding and defense and steals. At the end of the day, I would have loved Troy Brown Jr. to remain on this Chicago Bulls team. Again, it's just a toss-up on who was going to stay between Derrick Jones or Troy Brown, if any of them stayed. He decided to go elsewhere. The Bulls didn't really want to pay him. He's still a young player that could still very much work on his game. It is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. Troy Brown Jr. is one of those players that did leave that maybe you could have had a case for not, giving him away. But also, I think many people are not losing sleep over Troy Brown Jr. leaving. Let's be honest. Not many people are saying, oh, wow, it's devastating that Troy Brown Jr. left. I'm not like that. As much as I'd like him to stay, I'm not losing sleep over him leaving and going to LA. Hopefully, LA can do something with Troy Brown Jr. that the Wizards nor the Bulls could really do with him. You've also got to talk about Tyler Cook. He's one of those two-way contract players we didn't give a qualifying offer to. Made him become an unrestricted free agent. And I like Tyler Cook. He had some concentration issues with this Chicago Bulls team. I think I say that every time I talk about Tyler Cook. I think he has the physical capabilities to make it in this league with his size and his athleticism and his aggression around the paint. I think a team could definitely pursue Tyler Cook. He's, I think, 24 years old still, so he's still a relatively young player. Ultimately, though, again, I feel like this is another player that not many people are losing sleep over. Tristan Thompson is still an unrestricted free agent, according to what I believe at this point in time. Again, I'm not really too sure. I haven't been focusing on Tristan Thompson. He's someone that we brought in with the biannual exception during the trade deadline and stuff like that. It was basically a free contract, and it didn't really work out for the Chicago Bulls. I think his stats were okay here, but didn't really play in the playoffs. Wasn't really a significant upgrade in the backup center position. He had a couple of games where he did well, but he had other games where he just simply struggled. And I just don't think the gellingness and the fit was there with Tristan Thompson. Now, you could argue that one more season with the Chicago Bulls could have really helped Tristan Thompson, but we went in a different direction. And again, if you're looking at, all the players that we've really talked about in terms of who's the best player that actually left the Chicago Bulls team so far this season, you're probably going to say Tristan Thompson is up there. So he might have not fit our team, but I think he was by far the best player that we had on this team that's actually not returned to the Chicago Bulls team in terms of the free agency period, in my opinion. And Matt Thomas is another one that left the Chicago Bulls. We didn't extend a qualifying offer to Matt Thomas. At the end of the day, 15th man on the rotation, an emergency signing. There's not really too much to say, except Matt Thomas could have been a good three-point shooter on this team. He was last season with 38% from the three. He could have been again this season, but he doesn't really offer that much else other than three-point shooting. And for a point guard in this league, I think you've got to be able to offer a little bit more than just a catch and shoot. In my opinion, Matt Thomas is an undersized shooting guard. I think that's his position, but I don't think we used him in that position, which is why it probably wasn't the best, again, matchup and wasn't the best suited for the Chicago Bulls. I believe that was all our outgoings for the Chicago Bulls. Our incomings, obviously, Zach LaVine was already on this team. I'm not going to talk about Zach LaVine. Derrick Jones Jr. was already on this team. I'm not going to talk about Derrick Jones Jr. Those are big parts. Obviously, Zach LaVine's not a bench player. Derrick Jones Jr. is a bench player, but Derrick Jones Jr. on this team is the exact same as what I expected from last year to be. So, I'm not going to talk too much about Derrick Jones Jr. He just adds in terms of the, I guess, consistency and camaraderie of the team. Who we did bring in, we brought in Andre Drummond. Andre Drummond is one of those bench players that I do believe we got to upgrade over with Tristan Thompson. So if you're talking about, again, improving the bench, Andre Drummond improves our bench. It's not the first option, again, for many people. It's not the last option for many people. But I don't think there's any question he was better than the players that we had on this team. And at the end of the day, he's one of those players that I think can still make a very good impact. I think he's going to play a little bit more minutes than what Tristan Thompson did on this team. And I think he's going to do a better job in terms of rebounding and putbacks. And that's what we're really going to see as a really big positive out of Andre Drummond. Rim protection, I don't know about. In terms of playing defense and not playing defense, two sides of the coins that we're going to find out on the court very, very soon. But at the end of the day, definitely a player that I think improves this bench. We did bring in Tony Bradley, ladies and gentlemen. He did have a player option in relation to this team. Again, it's another player I'm not going to be talking about because he kind of keeps the bench pretty much where it was while he was here before. And Goran Dragic, the next man up. Goran Dragic does make our bench better. I think if anybody is really having an argument of Goran Dragic being better than a Matt Thomas, which I'm assuming is that like-for-like replacement, I think people are fooling themselves. I think Goran Dragic is better in almost every single way, maybe outside of the catch and shoot threes. But even if you really look at Goran Dragic's stats in terms of the corner threes and the catch and shoot threes, they're pretty high. He's a decent three-point shooter from what I've seen. Only last year was his really big downfall from the three-point line. So, yeah, I think in terms of improving the bench, we have. But there's multiple ways you can say that. In terms of improving our bench from development side of things, don't think we did much, if anything, to really help that cause. In terms of development, we've not developed our bench. Our bench has not gotten better in terms of development. So, I guess that's pretty much up to people's interpretation. We got rid of a younger Tyler Cook, and we got rid of relatively, I think he's 27 or 28-year-old Matt Thomas. And we got rid of a 22-year-old Troy Brown Jr., the ages of these players. And we brought in a 28-year-old Andre Drummond, and we brought in a 36-year-old Goran Dragic, and obviously a 25-year-old Derrick Jones Jr. So the age of the team has definitely gone up, which means the development and making this bench better in terms of developing has probably gone down. But there are two wild cards to actually really determine if the Chicago Bulls bench has gotten significantly better or just a little bit better. Because right now, I think with the players that I've talked about, our bench has gotten a little bit better. It's a little bit. It's not enough, in my opinion, to have that turning point for us to be, I guess, going into the Eastern Conference Finals or something like that. But it's done enough to improve over last year. But there are two players that we haven't seen play on this Chicago Bulls team that I think will make all the difference. Dalen Terry, obviously a player that could potentially be playing at the wing position and potentially be playing some of the guard position. Incredible playmaking for what I've seen. Has a really good competitive spirit about him, likes to trash talk, has an attitude about him. All these things are very positive, but ultimately it does come down to how well he can perform on this Chicago Bulls team as well. If Dalen Terry comes out, has an incredible first year like what Io did, then it's going to be a very, very, very good contributor off of our bench. And that's something I'm really looking forward to. We've got Justin Lewis as well, ladies and gentlemen, who is on a two-way contract spot. Now, ultimately, the pressure's not all going to be on Justin Lewis because, again, he's going to be playing in the G League from time to time. But we have used a lot of our two-way contract players in the NBA also. So he's going to get his chance, in my opinion, to play at the NBA level, to play with the Chicago Bulls team. We'll wait and see if it ends up happening. But again, if he comes out and impresses in the G League and has a good stint in the NBA with a couple of games that he's allowed to play in there, that could be very huge for the Chicago Bulls as well. Another forward to add into this team that could be very much a versatile player. And the last real wild card player is Marko Simmons. What is going to happen with Marko Simmons? Is he ready to play at the NBA level yet? Will he impress at the NBA level yet? Or is he just going to be, once again, another player that we send to the G League? He's not ready to play. and we waste another year of not really seeing what Marko could be at the NBA level. These are the 3 players that will make the ultimate difference, because we haven't got that game-changing player that we wanted from free agency. Whether you like it or not, we just haven't. We're hoping Andre Drummond will be that player for us, but in terms of what our top targets were, and the development they could have brought over a long period of time, we haven't done what we really wanted to do in free agency. Andre Drummond is our main target that we brought in. That's going to be huge. Goran Dragic is obviously better than Matt Thomas. That could be good for us as well. We do have to make a trade eventually. We'll see what trade comes up. And we're waiting on our rookies to really be the ones to stand up and impress. And if the rookies stand up and impress, that's going to make our bench much better. And also, if Marko actually gets a spot in this team and he impresses as well, then our bench can be better. Our bench can be much better than last year. But that's the question. We're relying on our young players. We're relying on our, I guess, potential. We're relying on who we've selected from the draft. And we're relying on something that could be a risk. There's no guarantees with this plan. We could very much have a worse bench because our rookies don't step up to the plate in their first year. Sometimes rookies don't have the best years coming into the league. It will take multiple years to get the best out of these players. Some of them rookies just come in, make an impact straight away. I don't know what's going to happen. It's a risky game that we're playing. These bench players, or these players that haven't been given a chance, can make our team much better. They could also make our team much worse. So that's the question that we really need to be asking ourselves. What is our production going to be from those youth players? That's the difference in my opinion. Because if you're looking everywhere else, I don't think we've massively moved that needle. We have gotten better. We haven't got significantly better. So we'll wait and see what the outcome will be. We're obviously hoping that guys like Io as well will develop in his second year. But again, it's all about development, in my opinion, from that bench. If that bench develops nicely, every single one of them develop, then we will have a better bench. But if some of them don't step up to that plate, there is a question to be asked there. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. Have a wonderful and safe day, Bulls Nation. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in another one. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned for more. Take care, and